Fun is Fundamental. Fun is Fundamental is a podcast for those who realize that the enjoyment of life is about having something deep in our souls which lights our fire. It's for those who maybe have lost that fire and feel like they are missing out on the pleasures of life. In each episode, I will share recent fun activities and focus on why having fun is essential for good health. I'm your host, Alenia, and I invite you to take this journey with me and join the pleasure-seeking movement. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. And how are things with you? Thanks for having me on the
Um,
show.
oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. So I know it's early there for you. So,
Not that
well,
early. It's 8 a.m. Yeah.
okay.
Uh,
Um, yeah, here it's about 4 o'clock. So
mm,
we're in different parts of our day.
mhm, for sure.
Yeah. I guess first, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself? I know that you're a motivational speaker, you're a coach. How did you get into that?
Oh, big question, but yeah, I'll start with the intro. So yeah, I'm Scott Allan. I work as an author, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and maybe a few other things. But I started publishing books probably about 12 years ago, back when Amazon had first launched their self-publishing platform. I'd already been writing years before that, writing a lot of motivational content, we'll call it that, just based on my years of research and learning. And so I put together a book or two. Actually, I wrote so much material, I actually ended up with three books. So that was the start of my journey with that. And yeah, a decade later, I'm still going strong with it. I think most of my philosophy is these days not so much the background. That's just one of the series of books that I have, but it's really a lot of the core principles are built around they do the hard things first philosophy. So seems to be a framework that resonates with a lot of people because doing the hard things first is that's hard stuff. That's hard work, you know. So I do a lot of coaching and training around that, teaching companies how to integrate that framework into, for their sales team or for, their product development, those kinds of things. So, um, but anyway, I've been in Japan for about 25 years, originally from Canada. And I got to this place way back when I made a decision to leave my job at the time. I was living in Vancouver. I'm from Canada originally. I was working as an electrical engineer. And oh no, I just decided like I needed to change something in my life. I just wanted to move forward with things. And I thought, well, what could I do that's just so radically different that nobody's done before, that I know of anyway? And I thought maybe I'm going to move to the other side of the world. So that was my plan. I was like, I want to go traveling, and that was like when I decided that as one of my goals, everything that I did started moving towards that. And then other opportunities showed up. I ended up landing a job in Japan before I moved here. So a company had brought me over, set me up with like a homestay and gave me some cash and a car, and I was set to go. So yeah,
That
but
sounds really lucky.
yeah, it was lucky. Yeah, I think I look at it as actually winning the lottery in a sense, So yeah, and
Yeah,
had a lot of lottery wins since then.
that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I would say as someone who has lived abroad temporarily, I taught English. It's not always easy to like find those opportunities that like, especially something that will like keep you there long term. So yeah, it is like winning the lottery to find that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I came here at a point where it's like the bubble was still the bubble. I mean, Japan, I mean, it was I think it was kind of breaking at the time, but to be honest, it was really good. And it's still good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm still here. I don't teach English anymore, but I did do that for about 20 years and it was great. I ended up working in a company that would send me out to other companies where I was teaching people like, business English and how to like teaching like CEOs and business executives how to I don't know, integrate their business into other cultures and things like that. So it was really good work, But as I was doing that, I was also building my book business on the back end. So I would go to my day job in the day, and then in the morning, early mornings and late at night, and a little bit throughout the day, I'd be working on writing and content and focusing on something more that I wanted to build like beyond the job, I think. So
So when did do the hard thing first come about?
came about just coming out of COVID actually, because as we all know, COVID wasn't a good year, that year of 2020. And what had happened previously just before that. So I left my full-time job in 2019 after making a decision that my book business was going well, the coaching was going well, and I thought, why not just it's time to leave this, the full-time gig and pursue my dream of becoming I don't know, a full-time author and entrepreneur, and wasn't fully ready for that. There was a lot of learning curves along the way. There still are, but um, getting into probably like fast forwarding a year later, once COVID hit and we were all, at home doing our thing, I just kind of shut down and stopped writing for the year. And coming out of it, I had this, I don't know what I call it, like a revelation or an idea that, wow, like, how did I get here? How did I get through that? And I think any of us could probably ask ourselves that question. And a lot of it comes down to like, I had to do some hard things to make it this far. And what are those things? And I started to identify what they were. But then I also identified the things that were holding me back, like how am I self-sabotaging myself? How am I, feeding into my self-defeating behaviors? And so I made a list of the behaviors as well, which procrastination or chronic procrastination was one of them, which is the topic of the first book. And then the second book was on how to, master self-control because I didn't have a lot of self-control either. And then the third book was on how to break bad. So every book is focused on a specific behavior, how to break that behavior. And if you can do that through the do the hard things first philosophy, the philosophy is really a philosophy of self for self-mastery, right? And it did start as the one book, and now we're creating a series of books around that. The fourth book coming out soon is on shiny object syndrome, which is a big pain point for a lot of people. So, but yeah, it really did come about just through, I think, going through a lot of pain, making it through that, and that just became my philosophy for everything else. Like whenever I'm pushing something away, it's like, well, am I pushing it away because it's a hard thing to do and I don't want to do it? And it probably is that, but it's like the reason for that is because is there a fear behind that? Is it the fear of failure? And then just identifying what it is and then just coming up with a plan for getting it done. And people can apply this to anything, whether if you want to build a business, maybe you're creating a family, or you want to declutter your room. It doesn't matter what it is. Like there's probably something that's holding you back. Identify what that thing is, and then just come up with a series of like it can just be one step that you need to take to move you forward. You don't have to have the whole plan laid out in front of you. But that's the whole concept behind that framework is really just taking intentional action towards a specific goal. And we need clarity for that. So,
Yeah, definitely. I find sometimes in like the self improvement realm, because it is like really a lot about reflection and digging deep and things like that, that sometimes it can get really serious. How do you
mm,
personally balance doing the hard work of being the best you and having, lightness and fun in your life?
hmm oh yeah, for sure. So I think when I work hard, I work pretty hard like most people, and I can be very focused, right? Um, but I also have time set aside in my day for playtime. So for example, my playtime includes going to the gym, working out, training, and again, maybe some people want to do yoga or stretching or whatever it is, but having that, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or 90 minutes, like having that in your schedule is really important. So um, that's part of it. The other part is meditation and relaxation as well. Sometimes, like when I would put these things into my schedule before, I felt guilty about taking time off or taking an hour out of my day for myself. It's like I really should be getting back to work because I have so many projects to do. But what I found is that I was really not working very efficiently on these projects when I wasn't taking time out for myself and, investing in that relaxation time or that meditation time or that workout time. I would skimp on those things and say, I'll do it tomorrow. Right. Because I really should be at work and, I'm going to put in 10 hours a day because I'm an entrepreneur and that's what entrepreneurs do. And maybe some of them do or a lot of them do. But as it turns out, it's like, if you want to be really productive, it actually begins with your mindset, right? And your mindset is based around like I think part of it, a big part of it, this is like how do you feel about yourself at the end of the day or the beginning of the day? Because if you want to feel great, you've got to be doing those things that inspire to greatness. And I think part of that is self-care. And the self-care part of it was the part that I was probably ignoring for a long time because I didn't see it as a necessity. I was like one of those things I'll get to later on. But yeah, you've got to have time for play. We're really designed to play like human beings really are, yes, for work, but we need that play time. So, I think people just have to determine, what that is. Like I'll give you one more example. Like every week I go to the movies, like usually sometimes with a friend, a lot of times it's by myself and I'll go to the IMAX theater and just there for like 3 hours with popcorn. And to me, like that's my playtime. That's like where, I can be in my zone. So yeah.
Any good movies recently?
Not sure yet. Might go to Furiosa this week. We'll see how it works out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a couple of friends go see that recently and they're like, yeah, it's pretty good kind of thing. So
Yeah.
um
Sometimes I'll even go to a movie just if like there's nothing playing. It's like, well, like because I'll go once a week, right? And I'll try to go, depends on the day. I might go like every like Friday at the end of the week or maybe Saturday, right? So, but even if there's something playing that I don't really want to see, I'll go anyway, just because that experience of being in a movie theater is something that it's really attached to my childhood. Like back when I was a kid, it was like that was the thing we did, just went to movies all the time. And I still feel like a little kid when I go to the movies, and I'm, yeah, I'll fill my belly with popcorn and and I'll stay healthy the rest of the time, but that's just the one the time of week where I can just let go a little bit. So
yeah. Well, yeah, it's good to find things that you can surrender to that like
mm,
you can just exist and you don't have to think through it. You don't have to try to make something happen. You're just like, I'm just there.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other things that you have learned how to incorporate into your life that makes you feel more connected to maybe a more carefree part of yourself?
Well, I think the thing that keeps me going um is really my work, So I'm deeply connected to the work that I do in terms of, yeah, writing and publishing books is, that's fun and fine, but I think it's connecting with people and teaching people how to like live a life of greatness, but creating that great life, because there's a lot of things that we can be doing in our day to day, I think. And we get really busy. I mean, everybody's busy with family and work and, you know, friends and just all this other stuff. But I find that there's also a lot of distraction as well, which, those can be like in business, maybe like shiny object syndrome, chasing after things that, we shouldn't be going after because I do believe like clarity is the key to um, pursuing the things that we want. And I think that when people ask me, like people ask me questions about, how can I figure out what I want in life? It's like, well, what do you want in life? And the question is actually very direct and to the point, but that's a question that's just the hardest question to answer for most people, even myself, when it's like, well, what do I really want? And I sit around trying to think about it. And the more I think about it, the less clear I get. But that's the thing is like you have to go through those moments of, I think, unclarity to get to the point where you start to discover the answers. The answer is not always there when you first ask yourself that question, but I think that's something really important to, just to sit down and ask yourself, like, what do I really want? I mean, there's lots of things we can go after. And I've chased after like a lot of different things, but most of them are things like after I got them is like, and this could be like could be money, it could be relationships, whatever it is, right? But the things that we're pursuing, I think they need to be in alignment with our values and alignment with our goals. And if you're not sure what your values or your goals are, well, now you have a place to start from. Now you know what to work on, you
Mhm.
know. So I would get to work on journaling, by the way, is one of the things that I do every day. Uh, I love journaling just because it's like pen to paper, and you'll get very clear on what you want and what you don't want, right? And I think it's important to identify as well, like the things that you, no, the things that you don't want are the things that you're no longer willing to tolerate as well. Like, I have a habit of always saying yes to everything, and I realized like, well, if I'm saying yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And I just continued to say yes to a lot of things that meant I had less time to work on other things that were really important to me, and I'd end up doing a whole bunch of other stuff that just didn't really lead to anything. So I'm very, I try to be very clear on what my goals are. And whenever I'm wasting time or I'm spinning my wheels and I find myself just kind of lost in the fog, I realized that I need to go back and just read my mission statement, read my identity statement. So having an identity statement like this is who I am, this is what I do, this is why I do it, and this is who I'm doing it for. And just having something like that written down on paper, you can have it in your head, sure, but I think it's better just for clarity's sake, just to like take an hour just to write it down. Some people call it a mission statement. I call it an identity statement, but it's really like it's just being very clear on what your identity is. And because identity is very powerful, and giving yourself certain labels is very powerful. So, for example, I used to identify myself as a procrastinator. So, a lot of people say this, like, I am you fill in the blank, a procrastinator. Well, what happens with that is that you start to act that out, because I'm a procrastinator, I'm going to procrastinate because that's what we do. But it's not actually an identity. It's just that it's a behavior that you can change, right? So, I swapped those out with, I am an action taker. And when I started to swap those negative labels out, I started to act more like an action taker, so you can change your identity. And that's one of the things that I'm very keen on, like training myself to do and then teaching other people how to do it as well. Because when I learn something, I want to teach other people like the framework for this, like, what are the steps to this? What's the process for this? And that way people can get just amazing results. I'm a big fan of 80/20, the Pareto principle as well, because again, like just learning through failures, I've like 80% of the things I used to do got very little results, and then when I start to be very intentional with the actions that I'm taking, like the 20% of the things I'm doing are getting 80% of my results. That's when I started to see a difference in, sure, not just my productivity and work, but my lifestyle, actually. I was spending less time watching TV, more time walking or listening to audiobooks or going to the gym, whatever it may be. So yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, that may have been a lot to unpack there, but
No, it was really good. Like, I mean, I've never, yeah, heard of like an identity statement. I think that's like a really smart way to look at it and go about it because we often take on identities that are not serving us. And so if
mm,
you can like restructure how you view yourself, then,
mm,
bigger things can happen. I think
mm,
it kind of goes with I feel like the atomic habits like what he's
hmm
saying about like who you surround yourself is like a huge like says this is like a huge part of what you will then do because you kind of become that identity of like
mm, yeah,
I am a person that does this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like the probably goes something like, yeah. I mean, I have Atomic Habits up here. I think he mentioned that, and it was in probably Jim Rohn said the same thing, and Tony Robbins is like, you are the how did it go? Like you're the sum of the like five people you surround yourself with or something. And I think like we can take that and kind of customize it a little bit. So there are certain influencers that I follow in the space. I've never met them personally, but I'll follow them because they're the best at like entrepreneurs, influencers, people who are dedicated to mindset growth. I will watch their videos. I'll listen to their podcasts. I'll read their books. So although I'm not hanging out with them every day, I have like, 5 to maybe 10 influencers where I'm constantly tuning into what they're teaching. Because again, that's, I'm absorbing, like they're taking what they've learned, what they practice, they're sharing it with the world. And if you're paying attention to that, you're going to adopt some of those principles. And that's just how it works. It's um, everything's just moving up the ladder, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, I think that's one of one of the things that I'm intentional with too is just spending getting back to what we are talking about like breaking out your day in terms of like are you working out, are you spending time meditating and journaling, and the other thing is I'll spend an hour of the day focused on learning. So I'm learning something, and whether that's a book I'm reading that week, I'm a slow reader, so or an audiobook I'm listening to or something. Uh, I'll be intentional with the skill that I want to learn. So it could be a skill for business, or it could be a life skill as well. Because the whole self-help concept, like I don't really like the term self-help. Not even really sure what it means. It's like nobody's really helping themselves. We need help from other people, but I think we have to learn something first, and we're always learning it from somebody else anyway, and then passing it on, right? So it's really a group effort. It's how humanity is evolving. Really, it's just like we have to. For me, it's not all about me. I'm here to help other people and serve other people, and that just gives my life a greater meaning. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely growing up, there was always like this idea that self-help is like, it's like, so, what's wrong with you if you're into self-help, that kind of thing. And I'm really glad that it's kind of like shifted away from that. And it's more like, hey, someone has experienced this or someone has wisdom around this and is willing to share so that maybe you can get through it without as much pain to get through it as other people have dealt with, kind of thing. It's like, why should why not think of it that way? It's like, I went through it really terribly so that hopefully you can get through it a little bit faster and without as much pain. That seems like a good way to look at it, instead
Mm.
of being like, we're all broken and we need help and, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all do need help, and I think I think the whole self-help concept is really it's you know, it's designed to make you self-aware, right? Really. So, becoming self-aware of where do I need help and who can I ask for that help as well, because nobody makes it alone. So, back in the day when I was going through like, addiction recovery and all kinds of other things, I mean, I couldn't have made it on my own if I'd read a self-help book. Now, those books came in very handy later, but I did need to connect with a coach or a mentor or somebody who could, direct me on the path actually. So, yeah, I think the whole concept of that, like personal development, is not about oneself. It's about becoming better in life or at life, or is about becoming better in life so that you can, pass what you know on to other people. Maybe that's you're passing it on to your children, or, you're going online and you're doing workshops, like whatever it may be. I thought like knowledge without passing it on is really worthless. So that's why, like, I think reading and learning is great, but you've always got to be asking yourself the questions like, well, like once I learn this, what am I going to do with this information? So,
Mhm. Well, yeah, and I mean, obviously, in some ways, it's not necessarily that you have to be purposefully teaching it. I guess that's kind of the same thing as you talking about how you teaching
mm,
your children, even. It's just like by example, like in some ways, just by example, you living a life that you're proud of and that you're fully embodying yourself and
who you want to be into the world, that can be like is such a great example for people that are struggling, more
Mm,
to be like, I want to be more like you, like, without
mm,
even having to like say something. I think being an example is one of the best ways that you can teach other people.
yeah. I think a lot of people, and we all do this, we all get stuck, like we get stuck, we're not sure which direction to take. And so we just end up doing a lot of the same things that keep us more stuck, really. It could be maybe you're working in a job, and I think 80% of the people are working a job they don't like. um, and to walk away from that's not an easy thing because sure we have, there's bills to pay and rent to pay and families to support. So we may need that job, but there's other, you can still pursue your dream while you're working in your job. But the thing is, you may have to give up something. So, you may need to give up watching Netflix for 2 hours a night or whatever it may be, or waking up earlier in the morning, right? And motivation doesn't have anything to do with that, I think. Like I hear a lot of people say, well, I'll do that when I have more time, when I have more money, when I'm less stressed. But the thing is like we always have stress about something. Stress is a good thing. Motivation is just not even sure if it really exists. It's like it just comes and goes. So you just have to know what it is that you want and how much time can you put in every day to work on this thing, and then can commit to the consistency of that plan for the long term. Because there will be many times when, well, getting back to the do the hard things first philosophy, one of the principles behind that is being willing to do the things that most people aren't willing to do. Right? So if you're stuck in life or if you want to make a change, you're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone. And I love the comfort zone. I could spend, like the majority of my time there, but I realized like there's a time to spend in that comfort zone, and we do need to feel safe and comfortable. But then there's a time when and I'm taking like talk about going out and, taking risks with your life or doing anything really crazy, but just working towards something that you don't fully believe that it's possible, but like if you're working towards this thing, we'll call it a dream. If you're working towards a dream, it's going to take time and intentional effort, right? So, and that's the thing is like we start working towards something, and then there will be a time like the self-doubt's going to kick in, imposter syndrome, and all these things. If I were to use an example, I guess, like when I started writing books, for example, and I mean, I'm not a great writer. I've never taken a writing course per se. Maybe I did, but it wasn't, I don't think it helped. But I was just very intentional with, my goal was just to publish a book and have my name on the book. And that was like, and once I achieved that, I was going to go on to the next thing, I think. Um, but I realized that it was something I enjoyed doing. And when I did, I learned a lot from that first book that I published. But the thing is that probably 35, 40 books later, when I look back in those first early days, is like I had to get up early in the morning. I had a young family at the time, so I had to get up early to get some writing done. And then I just had to really cherry pick some times throughout the day because I needed at least 2 or 3 hours a day to get the writing finished so I can get the book done. And it was just showing up every day and working on that. Now, you can apply that to any other goal. I'm just using that as an example. Um, so I realized that if I hadn't done those things, if I had waited for the day when I had more time or when I had more money or whatever it may be, it just never would have arrived because there was always something, I never had enough money. It's just like, but when I needed it, I could get it. Like that was the thing is like, when I needed more time, I could find more time. Right. So, yes, and I had to give up video games and give up watching TV as much. Like whatever these other things were that were stealing my time away, I had to recognize what they were and just say, okay, well, I'm going to use that time for doing this thing. And there are no guarantees of success. But the only guarantee is that, if you don't commit yourself to a greater path, well, someone's probably going to decide for you what that is. And that was the one thing that I just never really sat very well with me is like, knowing that someone else, so it would give you an example, like, working in a job, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. Jobs are great. But however, if you don't want to be there and there's something inside you that's, that a burning desire to create something, um, for yourself, something, it could be your own business, whatever it may be, then you're not going to be content or fulfilled. I should say fulfillment is a very powerful word, but you're not going to be fulfilled until you find a way to start working away from that, because I don't know, I'm just speaking from the probably the perspective of an entrepreneur and author. Like, now that I'm doing the work that I want to do, I couldn't imagine being in a situation where like someone like, and I was in that situation where, in a job where they were giving me work and they're saying like, you have to make these reports. And I remember just thinking like, I'd do anything not to have to do this. Right. So there is motivation there, but there's also a certain obsession behind it too, where it's like, if I really want this thing, then what am I willing to do to get it? Right. And so you just have to have um, the mindset that if you want to get to where you want to go, you have to be willing to do the things that most people aren't going to probably, invest in. And it is an investment in yourself. So,
Well, and also having like the grit to keep going when like there might be dips or just when you're like not feeling like doing it. Because, sometimes when you're first starting things, obviously you're like, oh yeah, exciting, I'm gonna do this thing. And then like that can't, you can't sustain that, obviously.
yeah.
And so like finding the way to just keep showing up even when you're at a low.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's right. Yeah, like, and there were more times where I didn't want to do it than I did. And you're right. Like in the beginning of probably anything, when I start a new project, it's really exciting and I'm really into it. And then when it gets difficult, it's like, well, maybe I should start another project. And so I would go start something else new, and that would be exciting. And then I get bored and go on to the next thing. But I realize like, if this actually means something to me, I'm going to find a way to work through it. And so sometimes it really is just showing up and putting in the grit. But that's kind of, that's hard for people to do, because our tendency is really to follow the path of least resistance, not to push against it and try to break through. I'm not a David Goggins per se. So he's probably, a lot tougher than most people, but even he has his hard days, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the one thing that does work for me though is like having a vision for what I want to achieve, but also having the anti-vision for what will happen if I don't achieve it. So the anti-vision is like, you got the dream over here, the vision and how great it's going to look. But what about this one over here? Like, what if I don't achieve that? Then over here is the anti-vision of everything that I don't want and the person that I don't want to become. That was actually more motivating to me than anything else. Like, I had this vision of, I don't know, sitting at a desk when I was, 65 years old and like still doing the same old boring work that I was already tired of. And I just couldn't imagine that. Like I was just like that thought was so terrifying. That's what motivated me more than anything to start working towards something that could move me away from that, so I think everybody just has to create their own anti-vision of, like, it's good to know like what you want is important, but also knowing what you don't want can actually add, I think, a lot more momentum to your actions. You're going to be like you'll become desperate at that point to work on your thing, whatever that may be. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, I mean, yeah, the what you don't want can be a really good motivator. If you just keep on reminding yourself, it's like, is this the path you want to go on? Like, it really can, like, really be powerful to move you away from it.
yeah. And just one more thing to add to that too, like knowing what you don't want doesn't mean going around and complaining to everybody about how bad your life is. And, I hate this and I hate that. Be careful of, like what you're talking about and how you're saying it, because, we all get into the complaining about something, complaining about our relationships and our work and this and that. And that's not going to get you anywhere. Knowing what you don't want and then going, okay, what am I willing to do to get out of to build my own destiny, to become the architect of my own destiny. Um, that's what I really want, because the possibilities are endless. Like once you start working towards that, then I do believe we were talking about luck just earlier. Well, that's really how luck is created. Like luck is created, but the thing is like you have to be ready for it when it comes around. So um, there's a book called The Third Door, and I can't remember the author's name. It was Alex something, but anyway, I'll look it up later. But
Yeah.
he talks in the book, and I watched him on an interview too. He talks about this the lucky bus that comes around, and the lucky bus comes around, and if you have a lucky ticket, you can get on, and if you don't, you can't, right? So that's the thing is like, opportunities will come around. But if you don't have that lucky ticket, well, that opportunity is going to pass you by anyway. It's going to be picked up by the person who's ready for it. So, um, you like whatever it is that you're working towards is like you don't know what opportunities are, ahead of you, but there's going to be like you're going to be building new doors for yourself, right? So I'm really big on like dream building, and again, like that comes down to like knowing what you want, writing it out, being very intentional with your actions, and not being afraid. Well, okay, not having the fear to fail, but knowing that you will fail, but that's okay, because failure, kind of a sticky word, because we're kind of raised not to fail, because back in school when you fail you get penalized for not passing a test. So we get trained that failure is a bad thing, but in the real world, yes, there are consequences to failure, but it's also very good information. Like I don't know, Edison, apparently, according to the myth, he created 10,000 light bulbs. And I often wonder, like, at what point did he actually consider quitting? Was it like number 7,687? And if he had quit, I think we'd still have electricity. It's just that somebody else would have figured it out. And Edison would have, if he had quit, he would have lost those opportunities, right? But somebody else would have picked it up. So anyway, yeah, I think you just have to realize like there's no direct path from A to Z. It's going to be a little bit all over the place. But if you stay true to yourself, like what you want, and on those days when you're not really sure if this is what you want, you have a lot of self-doubt, like realize that's part of the process as well. Self-doubt's a big part of it. You will have that. And I wish I could tell people that there are guarantees to life. Of course, we know they're not, but we do want to have that like uncertainty is something that we're all afraid of. I think like I don't want to do something unless I'm sure I'm going to get some kind of return on my investment. It's like, well, it doesn't always work that way. You may have to lose a little bit before you get that return, and you might not get any return on your investment anyway. I'm not speaking financially, but also investing your time in something, because time really is the currency. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess like in the way like people need to see it as putting that effort in. This may not be the dream that pays out, but you having the courage and the will and the drive and, doing all these things to potentially get this thing that you want,
mm,
that builds you as a person, that
yeah.
builds your character, that gives you this, like I know that I'm capable of X, Y, and Z because I have witnessed myself do these things, and so like that is a payoff, is being like I'm stronger than my ego saying don't do this thing.
Mm. Yeah. You'll grow from adversity. Like that's really what I think. I think that's one of the things that leads to personal growth is like going through that adversity and to your point, like proving to yourself that you can do this thing. Because let's just say you're working towards something and you're working towards something, you quit, and then you go work on something else, and then you quit that, and then you don't actually finish anything. Well, um, you're actually you've proven to yourself that, and you probably believe that you're now a failure because you haven't accomplished any of these things that you are working towards. But you just need one win. If you can get that win, then that's you've gotten something under your belt. Now you can get another win, I'm a big fan of like small wins as well. So you might have like a big goal, but it's like all those little steps leading towards that big goal. So again, if I were to use like, I don't know, writing a book as an example. So, books written by chapter. And I was used to look at it as like every chapter I wrote was a win. And so you can take this for like any other goal that you're working towards. Just know what the big goal is and make a list of all the actions you could be taking towards that. And then just like work on one a day, get those little wins every day. And then you're going to be, first of all, you're going to build trust with yourself, because trust is one of those things that's only built by taking direct action and getting a result. And the result may not be what you wanted, but you're going to get something where you can go, okay, well, I wasn't expecting this outcome, but at least I did something about it. This is what I got as a result of it. And maybe it's not what I wanted. So I'm just going to pivot a little bit and try something else, but that's just the trial and error part of it. That's really important, that we just continue to push forward, pushing through the resistance. Yes. But also knowing when it's time for self-reflection as well. And sometimes we have to just, I'm like, I'm a little like, I love moving forward and getting momentum and, driving hard, but sometimes you actually have to step back, pause, and really just, I call it meditation, but I mean, meditation can be like really just doing some deep thinking into what really matters to you. And, like what's going to be your next step to get back on the trail. One of my favorite books, by the way, is like The Road Less Traveled. And I think when we go back to the do the hard things first philosophy, a big part of that philosophy is actually taking the road less traveled, like the hero's journey. And I think we're all on the hero's journey to a certain extent. I mean, you can look back at your life and look at start to connect the dots, like the people you've met, the work you've done, the relationships you have, just all those things. And you start to connect the dots, you might see a pattern. And you might actually start to see a pattern of luck as well. I think luck is like, sometimes it's called synchronicity, where you start working on something, you get really lucky, you get a lucky break, but there could be something, more, I don't know, something more divine that actually had something to do with that. So
Definitely. I know you have to go soon, but I always like to ask my guests, how do you define fun?
Oh, yes, fun. Well, I think I've always had fun, but I think that my version of fun has changed over the years. So many years ago, it probably would have been something completely different. Nowadays, fun for me is just being able to, take a drive in my car and listen to, what do I listen to? Paul Van Dyke, like dance music. I'll drive my car and I'll listen to this really like upbeat dance music. That's one of the things. I mentioned one of the things already is like going to the movies, spending time with my kids, and playing with my dogs. I've got a few of them. So just things like that. Nothing too outrageous. Occasionally, I will have some extreme fun where I think last December I went to Hawaii. Oh, traveling. Love traveling. Just got back from Canada last week. Went to Hawaii in December. Two very big trips. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to jump out of an airplane? So I did that. A little bit scary, but it was like after the fact, it was like, yeah, I actually did that. I don't think I'm going to be, pursuing that as a career, but it was good to do it like the one time. So I'll do things that are a little bit extreme sometimes, but they're fun because they're scary. And sometimes I think being scared is a good thing. So.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes we need to be scared because we need these things to kind of jolt us out of like our routines and like and like test yourself to be like, this is who I am in this situation and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I also get fun out of working hard sometimes. Like, I mean, I don't know, going to the gym, I work out a few times a week. I've been doing it for many, many years. And although a lot of people don't see that as fun, um, for me, like doing 6 sets of bench pressing is fun because that's when I get my best ideas. I get like into a creative mode when I'm working out, actually. could be just from all the, the energy and everything. But so to me, like that's again another fun thing. But I think, folks just have to define for themselves what that is.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Japan is one of my favorite countries, and sometime soon, hopefully I'll be going back. What's your favorite part about living in Japan?
I think that every day still feels like a different day. Like, I mean, let me see now. Let me just retract on that. I'm about 10 minutes away from the station. So I could be at the station and I could be in a different city in about 30 to 60 minutes. So I live in a city called Okayama, a little bit of a smaller city, but I'm 1 hour away from Kyoto. So, I mean, Kyoto is one of the most fascinating places in the world, I think. You go there, it's like ancient temples, um, you know, like samurai history and just like everything is just seems like they just have a lot of culture there. I can be in Osaka in 40 minutes, right? So like it's another amazing city, Kobe, and I'm just surrounded by all these amazing places that are really just like within an hour of me. I'm a few hours away from Tokyo. I mean, but I just love the fact that every time I go to one of these places, it's like stepping into a new world. And I just love that feeling, I think, because I'm very adventurous and I just love that like knowing that I could take an adventure at any time of the week is just, and I don't always do that, but I mean, I like, and sometimes I do, but I could do that. And for me, that feels like that's real freedom, I think. So the other thing is a lot of good food. So love eating. And there's a lot of, it's not sushi every day. Like a lot of people might think you could be eating any different types of food these days. So, uh, and I think for the most part, just like the culture. I mean, yes, everyone's very nice and polite for the most part. And it's very systematized as well, which may not work for a lot of people, but actually works for me. I like systems. So when I know like there's a process to something and they have a process for everything, um, I don't know, it just seems to resonate with probably the way that I do a lot of my work as well. So
Definitely.
yeah. But yeah, you'll have to drop by sometime. It's a fascinating place to visit.
Yeah, I haven't been to Japan for probably like 15 years.
Mm.
So I definitely am like, oh, I need to go back to Japan. It's been so long. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I haven't seen very much of Japan. It was only like I've seen Tokyo and Fukuoka.
Hmm.
And that's it. So yeah.
Wow. So you went from one end to the other then.
Well, yeah, it was like two different trips because like I was living in Korea and so they had the ferry to go to Fukuoka. So I've been there. And then
Right.
one time my friend and I just she wanted to see a band from California and she lives in New Zealand normally. So
Mhm.
like we were like, this is the closest you're ever gonna be. So we flew to Tokyo and just spent 36 hours there and then flew home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah. Not
Anyway,
enough time to see that city for sure. But
no, not at all. Not at all. But it was a great experience anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on. Where can the audience find you?
They can go to, I have a website, I have two of them actually. One is scottallanpublishing.com, or they can go to scottallanbooks.com, which is the Shopify store where they can just see, yep, the books are on there. And of course, they can go to Amazon and check out the books there. You can check out Do the Hard Things First. We have a series of books. The fourth book is coming out next month. And if they have any questions, they can just reach out to me at scottallan@scottallanpublishing.com.
All right. Thank you so much for being on.
All right. Well, thank you for the interview. It's been great.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. You too.